this beautiful city, Brussels, with a beautiful weather, as usual. As usual, more or less. But indeed, very good morning. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to the second fee roundtable dedicated to public sector accounting in Europe. As you all know, fee represents 48 institutes of professional accountants and auditors working in different capacities in public practice. Small and big accountancy firm, businesses of all size, but last but not least, and also public sector, including different sectors and levels of governments, state-owned enterprise, and education. The public sector across Europe has to make considerable efforts to get out of the fiscal crisis and move towards sustainable public finance. Public sector accounting and reporting play an important role in this process. We have therefore included a specific public sector focus in the fee strategic priority for 2013 and 14, and I'm dedicating particular attention to it during my presidency. FEE has been a long-standing supporter of accrual-based accounting in the public sector. We strongly believe that a single set of high-quality standards would greatly contribute to stability and sustainability of public finance. The European Commission has made tremendous efforts to advance European public sector accounting. With last year's report on implementing harmonized public sector accounting standards in EU member states, Eurostat has made a strong and convincing case for improved fiscal transparency and public sector accounting. Whether specific European public sector accounting standards, the so-called EPSAS, would be the appropriate way forward in the EU remains to be seen. FEE believes that although a global solution would be ideal in the long term, that EPSAS may be the vehicle for helping Europe to move forward if certain conditions are met. In particular, the EPSAS governance structure and the standard setting process need to be fully transparent. Broad stakeholder participation and public consultation are needed and essential, and above all, it must be independent from undue influence and political tinkering. In the fee paper on EPSAS, which has been published yesterday and that you have in your handhouse, we share the issues for discussion emerging in this important public interest debate. At that occasion, special thanks to Thomas Müller-Marcusberger, the charismatic chair of FEE Public Sector Working Party. He is the expert on public sector accounting and auditing in Europe and worldwide as well, and he drives FEE activities at full speed. Thank you very much, Thomas. FEE has also decided to provide a forum for discussion of the main issues with a series of roundtables on public sector accounting standards. The first roundtable in January was about a suitable governance model, and a summary is naturally available on the FEE website. This second roundtable today is dedicated to discussion around a realistic time frame for implementation. Thus, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all very productive and stimulating discussion and have a nice day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, André, for that excellent speech. I would have a proposal for deletion for some parts of it, but we talk about that later. Yeah, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, a warm welcome also from my side. I am Thomas Müller-Marcusberger, and I'm the chair of the Public Sector Committee of FEE. And I'm really glad to welcome you today for the second roundtable. For the first roundtable, André already told you, we looked at governance, and we had, I think, a participation of around 110. Today we have exactly the same amount of people in the audience, and I think that already shows the amount of interest in that issue. There are a lot of questions to discuss, a lot of details to discuss, and therefore I'm very glad that we have the opportunity to talk about these issues today. Today we want to talk about EBSA's standard setting. You remember last time we talked about governance, and I tried to limit the discussion to governance. Some of the participants in the panel discussion had made that unpleasant experience that I just cut the word there. But today is the day where we talk about these issues. So we talk about kind of timing, we talk about the details, who is setting the standards. We are talking about the relationship to IPSAS, which is an important issue. We will, I think, talk about that a little bit later in connection to the question, how realistic is the time frame? Obviously, that's a critical issue. And certainly, we will share member states' experiences with their own process and what we can learn from that. Ladies and gentlemen, the process of harmonization certainly is one of the biggest challenges for public administration of the last years, if not the last decades. And obviously, FEE in general and the Public Sector Committee in specific really is trying to contribute to this process and to this discussion as best as possible. So these kind of roundtables, which we started with the last roundtable in January, should kind of serve two issues here. Firstly, to kind of provide you information, and secondly, to provide you with a platform to discuss, to share experiences, and to bring in, to feed into the developments of Eurostat, which is, I think, of same and equal importance than sharing the information coming from Eurostat, because I think we need to feed back what is our view on what is realistic, what is not realistic, and to help Eurostat and the European Commission in order to come up with a realistic proposal. So I'm therefore glad that we can welcome again Alexander Makaronidis from Eurostat, the head of the task force EBSAS, who is the project leader for this project, as well as a kind of a list of distinguished speakers which we will introduce later on as they enter the panel. So let us have a short look on the agenda. Firstly, we will listen to Alexander, who will take stock on EBSA's developments for around 40 minutes. You will have the opportunity to directly ask questions and to start the discussion already at that part of the agenda. The second part in the morning will be a very interesting part where we have kind of two different views on how to approach the reform of public sector accounting, or the reform of public sector accounting, and what are the outcomes, what do we learn from that, and perhaps what are the different views then on the question of what is the role of IPSAS in the future. After lunch, and I promise it will be after lunch, I will not mix up the agenda this time. After lunch, I will speak about the staged approach. We will hear a bit about the staged approach from Alexander, and I will go into a little bit more detail then. Before then, Alan will start the panel debate and the question of answers, where again you will have the opportunity to talk about these issues in detail and ask your questions, provide your questions to the panelists and also to Alexander. So, I think it's not necessary to further introduce Alexander. I think we all know him quite well. Probably most of you have already heard a presentation from him. But obviously, Eurostat has done quite a bit of work during the last weeks, and part of us have been part of that, at least at the task force meeting in Luxembourg last week, when we talked about EBSA standard setting and the first draft on what is called the Commission communication, which is under work in progress currently. So I'm really glad that Alexander will kind of introduce us into the status quo, and I'm sure you all are as curious as I am. So, Alexander, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much, André and Thomas, for this invitation. As it was already announced, stock taking is my job today, and I would like to update you on the work that we have done since the last roundtable at the FE here in Brussels. All right, so what I have planned for today is the so-called E in the EPSAS. This is, so to speak, a kind of a crash course on lawmaking, just that everybody understands what is the nature of the standards that we are working on. Then a few words on the way we have organized our work, a brief summary of the governance proposal we put forward to a public consultation. Then I would like to give you a very brief overview of the results of this public consultation, and also the tentative conclusions that we are about to draw from this consultation. And then I would like to go very quickly through a few key issues for the Commission communication. It goes without saying, of course, that this question, the role of IPSAS in the EPSAS, is one of the most important ones to be dealt with. Then I would like to say a few words on the staged approach. This was already announced by Thomas. These are all first ideas, as well as first ideas about the core accounting standards that we would like to cover in the future framework regulation, and the fundamental accounting definitions that we would like to see covered therein. All right, now in the IPSAS, this is very quickly to explain that whatever we are doing at the EU level, and in particular in the European Commission, must always have some sort of a basis in the EU treaties and its protocols. So usually what we are doing then, on the basis of these treaties, we legislate some kind of a basic act, like an EU regulation. And thereby, it's quite important to understand that the Commission has actually the exclusive right to make such proposals for what we refer to as secondary law. This is the so-called right of initiative of the Commission. Council and Parliament, they are the co-legislators, so actually they adopt secondary law, and then in the end, this basic act in many cases may confer powers onto the Commission to take further measures in order to implement the requirements of this basic act. So in more concrete terms, as regards EPSAS, so what we plan to do is always on the basis of the treaties. The Commission would elaborate and put forward a proposal to the European Parliament and the Council to adopt a framework regulation on EPSAS. This EPSAS framework regulation should define governance and key principles, as well as a few core definitions, accounting definitions. And the same regulation should also confer onto the Commission the standard setting powers. Thereby, the Commission would consult member states, and in the end would adopt the future EPSASs as binding legal acts. So that much to the E in the EPSAS. So very briefly, I think most of you have seen already this presentation. We plan to go through 3 stages. The first stage is about the Commission communication we are preparing. And this Commission communication should pave the way for the adoption of the framework regulation, which again should put in place governance structures, procedures, and principles. The framework regulation will be supported by an impact assessment, and also put forward a midterm work program for the development, endorsement, and then the stepwise implementation of EPSASs, so from end 2015 onwards. The way we have organized here the work, most of you know this already. We have put in place a task force with experts from the member states working on EPSAS governance. We have launched a second task force working on EPSAS standards. We launched the public consultation that will